Hello, John. It's time
Hey.
for another Eat, Sleep, Code, the official Telerik podcast. I'm your host, Ed Charbeneau, and John Bristowe is with me.
Hello.
This is the show that we cover industry news, software development news, tech news, give our very insightful and educated comments. Isn't that
ignorant comments as well?
Pretty close, John.
Yeah.
Where we see gentlemen laying on a a exercise table with VR headset strapped to their face, pretending to be a bird.
Yeah.
Let's get into some tech news, John. I'm gonna start with this one. You kind of brought up because I don't know what it is. What are you looking at? This is a tech radar of some kind.
Yeah. So Thoughtworks has done this for a very long time. This is their technology radar. And what this is basically a sort of assessment of how things are looking from different technologies based in one of four categories. And what they do is they basically rate these technologies that hit their radar, and they encourage people to either hold, assess, adopt, or evaluate, trial or adopt, excuse me. And so basically, the closer to the center a technology is, the more Thoughtworks will encourage folks to adopt it. And so if you hover over each one of these, they give various examples of what some of these things are. And they cover different things like products, techniques, languages, et cetera, et cetera. So if you're at all interested in terms of what's happening in terms of the tech space, Thoughtworks does a reasonably good job of summarizing what's new and interesting and what's hitting their radar. And they've been doing this, as I said, for quite a while. They're up to, this is their 26th edition. So they do this, I think, every quarter and or every 6 months. And they just basically provide a summary of what they think is interesting. So it's a good way of staying up to speed with what's latest and greatest out in the internets and amongst developers and IT professionals.
Yeah, this is quite interesting because I don't recognize any of the tools. So maybe I need Code Spaces. I didn't recognize that one.
Sure. 64, the one you just hovered over, Go Releaser. We use that one on our side. So
languages and frameworks. Let's see here. Swift UI. Okay.
Yep. So I mean, take it with a grain of salt. They're not always up to speed on some things. I've noticed that they'll put things on like hold or assess category, and you're like, dude, like this is way more used than this, or this is something that you should definitely jump on. But again, sometimes there's things that they pick up that fall in a category that, oh, I didn't know that. And it's kind of just one of many signals that you can get out there. And I think the analogy is apt. That is, using an analogy of a radar is quite relevant to the way we tend to think about things as developers.
Yeah, I'm finding this one interesting. There is literally nothing to adopt for a platform.
Well, that's to say, like, that doesn't mean there isn't anything to adopt, but this is basically what's out there. So you may have already adopted things that are on there, but these are what's kind of like hitting their radar. So, and they're going to be obviously things. They're going to be things that are missing, obviously, but it's one of those things to consider.
Yeah, there's some nice drill downs that you can do with this.
Yes.
It looks like, so you just click on those. You can go into details on each of them. Pretty cool. So that's Thoughtworks. Right?
Yep.
So one thing I didn't see on there was React 18. Sorry,
yes.
Go ahead. What were you saying, John?
No, Thoughtworks is a consulting company, for those who don't know.
Very cool. React 18. Yeah, where's Blazor? Phil Snable says, where's React? Hey, Guy Royce is here. Guy, I didn't see you at CodeStock, and I saw you weren't coming to Star Trek. You're missing in action, my friend. We have to get together and do some streams. I know we keep talking about it. So what's new in React land, John?
What isn't new in React land, I think, is the better question. Yeah, if you've been able to keep up to speed with what's been going on in the React space, it's been moving pretty heavily. Now, I haven't done React in a while, and by that definition, probably maybe a year and a half or two. But React, that doesn't stop the React team, and they're still chugging along. So there's some new capabilities to React. There's some, obviously improvements. Based on my reading of it, it's just more of an iterative release. It's nothing major, massively major going on here. Some of the things that people might talk about is what's called the root API, which allows you to basically navigate to, it's like a pointer to a top level data structure. And React leverages that to track trees when rendering. So there's that. Automatic batching, the ability to batch updates for a re-render. And then the last one that I've seen is Start Transition API. And this is when you're doing updates to a UI, and it's an API that you can kick off for what are called urgent or transition updates. So those are some of the things that I've noticed that are different there.
That's an interesting one. Suspense is a first-class declarative concept for like a loading state for the for a component or application. Yeah, we have something like this in the Telerik UI for Blazor stuff. That's pretty interesting. They actually added something to the framework itself to deal with that. Blazor's not as opinionated about those type of things yet. It looks like, by the 18th release, maybe it will be, but I haven't seen that in Blazor land yet.
Yeah.
Some interesting stuff in here. New hooks. I know they were popular when they came out, so it looks like there's some goodies in there.
Yep. So worth checking out.
Very cool. Speaking of new releases, we have a new Rust.
Yep. So again, Rust is plowing ahead as well. So 1.60 is just been shipped. They've added some features here. It's in the same boat, go check it out, just to kind of keep people aware of what's happening on that side of things. Rust is an interesting space at the moment, especially some of the tooling that you're seeing built around Rust. It's definitely a very popular sort of niche language that you're seeing people use. And based on people's experience, I haven't actually coded in Rust yet. It is something that I'm looking to do, but I hear that it's can be a lot of fun. It's extremely performant. So.
I've only tinkered with it through the little Mozilla tool that I shared on one of our shows.
Yes.
It is called WebAssembly .studio, I think. And you can try Rust in the browser. That is not it. It used to be WebAssembly.studio. Let's see if did I misspell something? Or did they? Maybe they don't host that anymore. Let's see. Did Mozilla take this down? Yeah, it must be gone. Looks like it's parked now. Never mind. There used to be a experience kind of like our new tool for Blazor that we have called Blazor REPL. So if you go to blazorrepl.telerik.com, they used to have an online tool for WebAssembly that ran Rust that was similar to this.
There's Replit, if that's something you were thinking about. It's like a REPL.
This was by Mozilla, and it was definitely called WebAssembly.studio. And it looks like this does not want to load for me for reasons. But yeah, we'll move on.
Anyways,
This like an editor in the browser type of thing. I'm sure there's other places you can test out Rust code very easily. But I thought that was a cool one, but it looks like Mozilla abandoned it. So, meh.
That's right. The answer to everything. Meh.
Yeah. So it looks like the .NET framework, and this is not .NET Core, but the old .NET framework that ships on Windows and Windows only, not the cross-platform .NET Core that we know, but the .NET full framework. There are several versions that are reaching end of support in April.
Oh, yeah.
But 6.2 and newer should still receive updates. So if you're on 4.8, I think you're good. I think 4.8.1 is actually out. So this is older versions that you need to watch out for. You may need to update those.
Actually, .NET 5 is actually ending support in 3 weeks. So, time.
Yeah.
Basically, there's two versions of .NET you want to move to. It's either .NET 6 or it's .NET Core 3.1. Those are the two versions you want to support. Yep. And a lot of companies are transitioning to these right away because end of life is support-wise is coming fast. So .NET 6, .NET Core 3.1, those are the two versions you want.
4.8 is still good in the sense that it is supported. See what I did there? It is definitely supported. You probably want to start migrating Wave from .NET 4.8, but just to give yourself time. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, but give yourself some time to move things off to .NET Core. Like John's saying, you want to probably get on .NET 6. That's the latest LTS. Upgrading from 5 to 6 isn't bad. I don't think there's any real breaking changes there. It's if you're coming from 3.0 and framework, full framework, you're going to have some breaking changes to deal with.
And to be clear, it's not like suddenly the date hits and then everything ends. It's just support wise, it just ends. That's all.
I mean, it's not like Microsoft just up and kills things either, John. Right? I mean, it's not like there's a great. Oh wait, no, hang on. What's this?
It's an interesting site, killed by Microsoft. I stumbled across this and I thought, oh, that's interesting. So Microsoft, like many companies, including actually this, I think Google is a strong candidate also for a site like this. Large companies, long histories, they tend to build a lot of projects, and unfortunately, some of the ones that people love tend to be killed. Mm-hmm. Killed doesn't necessarily imply that it's gone forever. It just means it's probably washing away like dandelion spores into the realm of nostalgia. So this is a site you can go check out and search for maybe projects that you loved back in the day.
Yeah, I find this one interesting. Like Minecraft Earth didn't even hardly get a chance. Like it's an augmented reality mobile app where you kind of like what's that thing called? The Pokemon Go, right? So they release it in 2019, like right before the pandemic starts. It was in beta. And then like this is the kind of game you're going to go out in public and play in public during a pandemic. And then they're like, oh, nobody's playing it. It's not working. Like they launched it at the worst time possible.
Right.
No fault of their own, but worst time possible. So they ended it. I think that's kind of possibly a bad decision. I don't know. Didn't seem to get like much of a chance to even find its ground during that type of situation. And then of course there's Windows Phone, which it's hard to believe it lasted 9 years.
I
love.
I just look at some of these things. I'm kind of saying, kind of in a sort of way, and I'm also kind of like, this is what happened,
Yeah. Let's see, what else do we have in here? The band, we saw that one kind of. I got one of those. It was affectionately called the handcuff. I got it as a gift, by the way. I didn't buy it. It was not the best thing.
I wonder if the Windows launch party idea is somewhere listed here. What a great idea that was.
The Windows launch party. I remember the boxes of swag you could get to celebrate.
It's fantastic. The Zune, perfect.
Yeah,
that deserves a mausoleum, not just a tombstone.
Zune was like, we need an iPod too.
Yep, they should have made that tombstone colored brown, in honor of the brown Zune. So
this was a really handy tool that never got enough.
Yes, it was Web Matrix. Yeah,
Web Matrix was phenomenal. I think I don't want to just put this out there without any proof, but my gut tells me there is an open source fork of this of some kind.
Yeah, it's called Visual Studio Code.
No, they're not the same thing. So unless I'm thinking of something else.
I don't know.
So Web Matrix.
MapPoint was good. I remember MapPoint. Media Center, that was a solid one for digital creators. Of course, this predates YouTube and all that sort of stuff, and all the stuff that's happened then. Home server home server was a massive one for a lot of folks. MSN Messenger. Money was awesome. I remember using Money back in the day. Live Spaces. Ugh. Some of these are just like, yeah, not again. Popfly. I remember Popfly. That was great.
The Kin lasted 5 seconds. It was the shortest lived product I think ever.
Yep.
Who doesn't love
Outlook
Windows
Express?
Mobile?
That was good. That was one of the first mail clients I would pull down, just out of habit mostly. Yeah, that was good. Visual Source Safe. All right, no one misses Visual Source Safe. Let's just put that out there. That thing is an abomination. Sorry. I mean, it was good for its time back in the day, but God, if you used it over an internet connection, ugh.
Microsoft Bob made it on the list. So there was one thing, like with this web matrix, like you could have a blog and it connected to like a bunch of different kinds. And what was nice about it is you could go in like to a WordPress site. You just connect to your WordPress site through a special URL. And then it would act like kind of like Microsoft Word. And you could just open the blog posts in a nice rich text editor and edit it like no problem. I mean, it worked beautifully. Like you could just sit there and edit it as if it was like a Word doc, and it didn't murder the HTML. It actually produced decent HTML, and then you'd save it and it would publish it to your website like nothing. Like, I mean, like you're saving a file on the desktop.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
It was revolutionary for its time. Wait, you're not destroying everything I've created here? It's like, no.
Yeah, it actually worked. And it worked with different platforms. WordPress was one. I think it worked with like .NET Nuke and a couple others. And it would just like, you didn't have to like go on the web and use some clunky HTML editor. It like actually existed like a Word document on your screen. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, shout out to Codeplex as well. It's listed there. This predates GitHub and these online repositories that we have today. Yeah, Codeplex and other places like that definitely helped in the open source area.
I think this web matrix was also part of the Microsoft Essentials where it talks about blogging.
Yeah, there was the live blog or live Visual Studio. No, Windows Live Blogger or something like that.
Yeah, I think that was essentially a web matrix clone or something like that. It was part of
Windows Live. I hated this marketing term. This was stamped onto everything. I was expecting Ages of Empires Windows Live at some point. It's like I don't understand why they have to rubber stamp everything. With a brand name, but whatever. So.
Yeah. Live Mesh was another one. Like it turned into OneDrive. Yeah. And that was pretty phenomenal. So with the kind of little creative destruction here, with the things that go away, new things take their place.
Yes.
The .NET MAUI Release Candidate is out. So this is a go live support. So that means you can start building with this release candidate, and that means MAUI's here. So you still need Visual Studio 2022 preview. I am a little hesitant recommending that to anybody that's doing production because it's quirky, especially when you're doing Razor code. Hopefully they fix that soon. It's not stable for Razor code right now, but MAUI is looking really good, and I'm going to be working with it for the next couple weeks, trying to learn as much as I can about it. I've got a talk coming up at a conference soon about all of the different ways to bring .NET code to the desktop with Blazor. It's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm excited to see the release of MAUI finally.
Yeah, shout out to the team building it. It's been a long slog for these guys, and what they're doing is not easy. Cross-platform app development is impossible at best. And so my congrats to the MAUI team. Well done. Congratulations on getting it this far. and now we're on to the, I guess, the final steps before we hit release. And so, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
now they got the harder problem, which is they have to convince all these developers to build apps on top of it, which is a harder problem because it's a non-technical problem now. So,
Yeah. I mean, everything is Blazor now, so that's awesome.
yeah,
I love that. Keep
yes.
teasing Sam, like we've got our peanut butter and chocolate mixed together now.
Yeah. I'm wondering if I love the acronym. I love the name. I'm wondering if Microsoft will resist the urge to rename it. You know, what's the over under on renaming of MAUI? And I'm thinking they'll probably keep it, you know, because
I think they're going to keep it
to an acronym. Yeah.
Because they did this with Blazor, and everybody's like, "Oh, Blazor's going to get renamed. It's going to get renamed."
Yeah,
and
yeah.
here we are, 5 releases later, and still the same name. So I think they're going to keep it. They've gotten a little better at this. Yeah.
Yeah, you can just see those meetings occurring back in Redmond. You can just people see, like, we need people to be able to identify what this thing is. We need to give it a Windows Live, .NET Windows Live branding exercise. It's like, no, don't. Just leave it. It's fine, you know. It's like you don't rename your kid after they're, 12, you know. It's like, just leave the name. The name is what sticks. That's what they're identified as now.
It is
this
.NET
whole renaming stuff. Yeah, it
multi-platform for Windows Live Essentials XP 2022 Pro.
Yeah. .NET at the end, right? So.
Yeah. We do the same thing. We have, it would be the MAUI platform, Telerik something or other.
Yeah. I'm wondering if, so here's the question. They're now on to the, as I said before, they're on to the hard part of the problem, which is convincing app developers to build MAUI apps. And I'm wondering what sort of programs they'll have in place for this. Are they going to have initiatives around this, like built with MAUI, stamp logos, whatever, things like that? Are they going to feature this as an aspect to the app itself? I know that the App Store itself accounts for this, but is this going to have downstream ramifications around how we identify .NET MAUI apps in the future? Is what I'm now that's the high order bit that I'm looking at now. It's the technology part has been addressed, and getting the release candidate, as I said, kudos to the team for doing that. But now it's up to the support team and the marketing and all that sort of stuff to take over and start driving this in the developer community. So I'm wondering kind of how they'll start promoting this. So, and that's just an open question. I don't think anyone knows really. So
yeah. Yep. So it looks like there's quite a bit of content coming with it too. So there's
this is
MAUI
it's a standard operating procedure for Microsoft. They put this huge sort of education push behind it, and kudos to them. They really do a great job of providing developers with the resources and content they need to understand this stuff.
All right, so on to some AR, VR, AI news. I stumbled onto this one the other day, and this was in my Twitter feed, I think. This is called DALL-E, like Salvador Dali. Like this is the second generation of it. This is cool. Have you ever seen this, John?
I've seen yes, too many things like this. Yes.
Too many things like this one is pretty bonkers. So it can create images from natural language. So they trained this AI on images tagged with a bunch of natural language processing, and the things it's able to do.
They should just call this NFT generator.
Yeah, that would have been perfect. Yeah. So you can type things out like an astronaut riding a horse in a photorealistic style, and it will generate these images based on the combination of these texts that you give it. And it does a pretty interesting job with it.
Sure.
Yeah, a bowl of soup that looks like a monster knitted out of wool. Like, I again, the stuff I could see being useful as a tool for designers and artists. So you kind of you have ideas, you plug them in, and then you create something based on what it's, the output is, and it's giving like multiple generated images out of this. This is really great stuff. I think this is just cool as anything. So depending on what text you put in, it generates these images out. Another thing it can do is diffing between other images. So it can kind of like combine images. And you can even, I guess, highlight certain regions of a photo and have it augment that photo. Like this one's dropping in flamingo floaties into the photo in different places, depending on where you want them placed. So, I mean, it's like this one doing corgis. Notice how it changes.
Yes.
It's smart enough to like, okay, this area is going to be, a realistic corgi. This one is going to be in the style of this painting. This one's in the style of that painting.
Yeah.
It's really weird, but really cool.
It's reminiscent of the GPT blog posts that you're seeing being spat out now. And it is interesting.
Use originals as an inspiration. This one's pretty cool. So if you look at the mice, again, it will adapt to a certain style that you give it and give you variations of it. Like this one, I think, is adding more animals to the background. It's really neat. I thought this was fascinating. There was an image that I had seen on Twitter where they were giving it houses and giving it they wanted a house designed in like all the different styles from like the 1800s all the way up to modern, and then they just kind of transitioned it slowly through each image so it looked like it was being kind of remodeled over time. I thought that was just really cool use of AI. So this is pretty neat. If you get a chance, check out openai.com and then watch this video on how they created this thing. It is really cool. It tells you a little bit about the safety stuff they put into it too. So they weeded out, let's see if it's under content policy. Yeah, they weeded out like hateful symbols, things that could, be violent, adult, that type of thing. So this can't be used for, like political, uses, stuff like that. So it's not trained on these things, so it can't create these things. Can't abuse it easily. And then talking a little bit about AR, VR stuff. I went to a session. It wasn't at this last conference, but it was another one. And Lance Larson has a great blog. I just wanted to point out, if you're interested in anything AR, VR, mixed reality, he dabbles with a lot of these things and writes blogs on like getting started with like different technologies, like step by step getting started with HoloLens 2, step by step getting set up with mixed reality pass through for Oculus Quest and Unity. So it's like if you want to pick up a AR VR thing like Unity and start programming with it, you're going to find a bunch of great blog posts in here, and they're all like step-by-step tutorials. Not all of them, but a good majority of them. So if you're learning, this is a really great resource. So lancelarson.com, fantastic speaker too, by the way. I got to see him. I think it was at Code Mash. It looks like he's going to that conference as well. But I'd love to try out some Unity. So I think I'll be jumping on here and dabbling a little bit with that sometime soon.
Cool.
Cupid for joyful coding. What is this about, John?
So Dan North is, he's done a lot of blogging. He's a well-known developer, and he's written this article on an acronym called Cupid, and it pays homage to Solid, which is yet another acronym for basically a set of principles for building out software. I think the ones are single single purpose, single responsibility, meaning build software that has one goal in mind, open, interface driven, dependency inversion, etc. So Cupid is a bit of a different slant on this, which is it's basically a set of principles that you can apply when building software. And so they are composable, based on a Unix philosophy, which is basically does only one thing well. It's predictable, so it's deterministic in a sense. Idiomatic, meaning it's kind of like, the way it's been built is very intuitive. And then domain based, which is basically it's driven across that single purpose spectrum. And so the reason why I like this is because it actually does align well with the philosophies when you're building out software and you're thinking about these, applying a Cupid principle or Cupid philosophy or guidance to building out software will drive you in a direction that makes these properties realistic. And so I really do like the philosophy, and Unix actually does encompass a lot of this, especially at the shell level. They do things really, really well on a utility by utility basis. And so the whole end result of this is to try and build software that is very user friendly, very nice to use, joyful, as Dan describes. And so this was a very, very useful article for folks who are thinking about building out software and the sort of underlying tenets of what they want to apply when building out those pieces of software.
Yeah, I'm all for when folks are trying to hone their craft. Like, all these things do come in handy, whether you like full on adopt one of these methodologies like Solid or this one. Just mixing in a little bit of this stuff can help dramatically. Naming things properly, just giving your code structure that, again, humans can understand. I think we saw that down in here. This is a great quote by Martin Fowler. Any fool can write a computer program or code that computer can understand. Good programmers write code that humans understand. Anytime you do that, I think you're on the right track.
Yeah, I mean, like Dan's background is in BDD. I mean, he's one of the main proponents and inventor of it. And so behavior-driven design is this philosophy, it aligns to this philosophy. And so I think Cupid is a good set of principles to think about when building out software.
Awesome. It's time for your favorite part of the show, John. You know what I'm going to do.
I hope so.
I know you're going to love it.
Oh, yeah.
It's time for Can It Play Doom, John.
Nice.
I think that intro just deserves some more playtime, but I won't do it again.
Sure.
So funny enough, this was the blog post here is April 3rd, but the actual ray trace Doom was released on April 1st, but it is not a joke. So somebody went and added ray tracing to Doom, and it looks pretty cool. So we can throw it up on the screen here, just so you can see what it looks like. Hopefully this is coming through okay. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, it's not, it's neat. It's pretty neat looking. It's not going to maybe get me back in the driver's seat, but it's definitely cool to see a video of, like, the actual, like, real-time shadows and lighting effects and things. Definitely give it a different look. I don't know if it's better, but it's different. And it's ray tracing, so that's cool. So I remember when they did this with Minecraft. Minecraft actually looks pretty phenomenal with ray tracing. There's really cool water effects and stuff in that. This still looks a lot like Doom, but the real-time, like, lighting of the rockets and the projectiles, I think is really like where it shines. I think that's pretty cool. So you can always Google that and download it if you want to try out a new version of Doom. And then a little shameless plug here. We just released this blog post today. We have new stuff for all of our UI components. So we're on like we do monthly, like, big releases, but we ship very frequently on all of our UI suites now. So we have all sorts of new stuff, like new theme swatches, like a very accessible theme swatch that we released. We have new jQuery, Kendo Angular, React components. So all sorts of new stuff in there. We have some new, we have React 18 support. We just talked about that, John. New splitter component for Vue. If it's got a front end on it, we're probably making components for it. The wizard,
Yep.
the Vue wizard, amazing. We have that one for Telerik UI for Blazor. I've used that before. It really works well. Speaking of Blazor, if we scroll down far enough, there's so much stuff here. We do have new components here, split button. We added responsive and adaptive behaviors for multiple components. So these are going to work better on mobile devices, resizing windows. This is all, this is a real important one here. Debounce delay parameters for multiple components in Telerik UI for Blazor. This is meaningful because when you have these things in a Blazor server application, you don't want like your autocomplete text box to fire on every keystroke, right? You want to kind of debounce that stuff and make sure you're not blowing up the WebSockets with too much traffic. So you can kind of throttle that stuff with our debounce delay on. There's the example I was talking about too. Yeah, great stuff there, and that blog post just keeps going and going. So lots of interesting stuff on the Telerik UI front. It looks like you've got some stuff coming, or you've got a blog post here from Octopus Deploy as well.
Yeah, so we put this out a couple weeks ago. Andy wrote this blog post on an introduction to DevOps. It's a very practical explanation of DevOps, despite the fact that DevOps is mostly a non-technical approach to solving problems in your developer organization. That is, people and process before tools. This puts it in a very practical approach to how you apply DevOps to your organization. And so, if you're ever at all interested as to the how and the why and all that sort of stuff, this kind of gives a very simple explanation as to the things that are important relative to these conversations you may have. Of course, they mention things like the Unicorn project. A very classic example of a book that would be cited when learning this stuff. But yeah, there's lots and lots of different tools that we list, many of which we support, etc. So just kind of giving a summary there of some of the things you can check out.
Very cool. I should probably read this.
Of course, if shout out to folks using Atlassian tools right now. Big hug to the Atlassian folks maintaining Jira. I know they're going through a tough time. Keep with it. I know you guys will get through this. So, for those who don't know, there's been some problems with Atlassian Jira right now. So people are back at the headquarters are working on it feverishly to solve those problems. So shout out to those folks. I know they're doing everything they can to kind of fix the problem. So
yeah, speaking of problems, I think I had a successful stream. Like earlier today, I did a show with Sam, and every time I would share my screen on StreamYard, my sound would cut out, and it was driving me crazy, and I could not figure out for the life of me what was doing it. I think, I still never figured out the actual root cause, but I just blew out Windows. I said, you know what? It's time to reboot this thing. So I paved it, and here we are, and I think it worked. I think I got the bugs out of the system. So I'm a happy camper, John.
We should do a killed by IT or killed by my home ops, home sysops. Versions of software or versions of machines that I've had in the past with names of machine names and things like that.
So I committed a IT no-no, and that is upgrading a Windows version to another Windows version. So usually it's like, save it every time. I was like, hey, this Windows 10 to 11 thing couldn't hurt, and I clicked the button and I shouldn't have. And ever since my audio was going crazy. So hopefully this is the end of that problem. I was getting like something was going nuts and like pegging my CPU at 100% all the time, which didn't make any sense to me because nothing was running. Like literally from
Did you have Outlook running at the time?
Nothing. Like from a fresh boot, it's like instantly at 100%. Something driver wise, I think, was driving it insane. And
You know, I love making these jokes. I feel like wearing one of those ties you can grab, sort of like a Don Rickles moment, to be like,
yes,
hey, what's the deal with Windows, And I don't know. When I
take
look
my
at those
windows,
situations,
please.
I know. I'm, shout out to Gilbert Gottfried, rest in peace.
No,
What an icon. I'm sure he would have something to say about this situation. Um, yeah, so I would imagine that you can use analogies for this, but whenever I see people fixing roads and stuff, I'm like, that's exactly how you should approach your operating system. It's like you don't see people just paving over potholes. They take out almost the entire road and redo it. And there's a
I think
reason for that.
the correct Gilbert Gottfried response to upgrading from Windows 10 to Windows 11.
Screaming at your machine.
You fool!
Yes, you fool.
You fool!
That's right. Yes. Yeah, it's a perfect way to end this episode. Shout out to Gilbert. What a giant. But yeah, he would definitely say you got to have that screaming in my head. You fool, when thinking about just doing an upgrade.
Yeah. Legend. All right, man. I will talk to you again next week, and we'll see all of you soon. Bye-bye.